how do you make the transition from a listing agent to a buyer's agent, right? Well, you need to be able to go from E to P, right? From an entrepreneurial to purposeful, right? And change how you look at things, right? Because that grit, that drive, that person that you are, it is only going to get you to a certain point where then you have to need to change or grow. And to become a great listing agent from a buyer's agent, I would argue that it's really kind of two or three things. The first thing is math, right? You need to be able to speak to a seller intelligently about their mathematical situation, whether it's a rental or they're going to sell it, if they need to drop the price, what the return on investment is, what their taxes are going to be, right? What the tenant payments are going to be, the rules around that, and how they can grow their wealth in a strategic way. You need to understand that incredibly well in a multitude of different ways and be able to explain it to them in layman terms, which means you need to understand it incredibly well. That's number one. Number two, you need to have a lot of confidence in your presentation, right? And it's not just that you think you're the shit, but that you have a strong grasp on what your marketing plan of action is, what's happening in the market, and that more importantly, what you say is gospel, right? And when I say it's $500,000 and that's what it is, that I know someone else will list it for $600,000 and that's great, but that's not ever going to sell, and here's what's going to happen, and this is why you would hire somebody who's a professional like myself, right? And it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to know it's 500. It might be 525. It might be 490, right? But then you have that conviction that you're going to take a seller's hand and that they can trust you in this process to be their guide, which is really what they want, is someone to make them feel safe, right? And number three, and I would probably say repetition, right? And maybe this includes the last one or two, but the best listing agents are listing agents that have done dozens of listing presentations every single week for a decade, right? And so they've repeated the same thing over and over and over again, and they've been given a bunch of different objections and changes in environments, in situations, in financials, in emotions, in people, and personalities, right? And can kind of go in a lot of different directions in the conversation, and they learn and they get better by repetition, right? And that's how you become a great listing agent. And I would argue that you really should try to practice as much as you can on people that are not going to employ you, because you would prefer not to mess up on somebody who's ready to go versus like your mom, brother, neighbor, agent in the office.